In today's lens review, I'll be looking at the Sigma Art 35mm 1.4 lens. Now you've probably noticed my hands are empty and I do not have the lens with me. And the reason for that is, it's filming these videos. I've been using it to film all my YouTube videos. It's just the best option I have. Now when I started out, I was using this 17-40 to get that wide, close-up sort of dramatic look. But the image quality just is nowhere as good on this lens as it is on this lens. Now, pop that down somewhere safe before I smash it. The 35mm Art is my first art lens that I purchased. It's also the first premium lens I purchased. Up until this point, I was shooting with the 85 1.8, the 50 1.4 from Canon, the cheap one. I think I had a 22.8, and I think that was my lot. I've probably got it noted down somewhere. I'm sure it was my lot. And then I bought this lens, and at the time, and I think context is important here, I was shooting weddings, portraits, and gigs. And it is just the best storytelling lens, which is why I use it for this. It's wide enough to give you the context of where I am. It's not so wide that it looks bizarre. It gives you a nice background separation. We're at 2.8 on this video, but back here we're blurry, and over here we're in focus, which is good. It is what I need for what I'm doing here. Now, I'm going to go through the pineapple shots as usual, and then I'm going to go through my portfolio and I have a lot more to show you this time because I've had this lens since the week it was released. It is battered. I wish I could show it to you, but I can't without ruining the continuity of my videos. But it's got gaffer tape holding the lens cap on. It's scratched, I mean, not the actual lens bit, but the actual barrel of the lens, is all the paint's coming off. It is a beast. It's been on tour with bands. It's been at weddings 3 days a week for 5 or 6 years continuously. I don't baby my kit. I'll happily roll it across the concrete floor of the studio to somebody else if they need it. It gets used. The build quality is brilliant. Let's look at the image quality though. So when I was putting these images together, I had a massive panic that I'd missed focus because I did this and went, oh no, I focused the lens wrong. But I focused it on the leaves and it was the first of these shots that I did. So it's the only one where I focused on the leaves before realizing it wasn't the best idea. Anyway, I digress. 1.4, wide open. It is dreamy soft. This is the best Sigma Art lens I've used. I've used the 50, 85, 24, and I think the 135. This is my favorite. Maybe more to do with the focal length than anything, but I like it. It is sharp. I mean, this is wide open. See here, that's in focus for about 1 millimeter. It's very hard to tell you how sharp the lens is, and the best thing to look at when wide open is the overall aesthetic of the image. And I think it does a grand job. Now, as we go from 1.4 to 1.6, just look in that top left-hand corner, how dark it is there, and how quickly the vignetting starts to disappear as we get to 1.6 and 1.8. Now, we zoom in here at 1.8. This is detailed. This is sharp. Yes, there's not much of it, but the bit I got in focus is very good. Now, Canon sensors have a red and warm bias to them, but these Sigma Art lenses seem to have a slight... I'm sure it isn't a purple tint, but they seem to have some sort of purple tint to them, and they're cooler, and it really works well with a Canon sensor. It does a lot of the work that I want to do in post for me. It's just a brilliant combination of lens to camera body. Now, as we stop down to f2, f2 is where this lens lived when I was a wedding photographer. It got just enough in focus and blew out the background, but let you see what was in there enough to give you context of the location. Shooting on a 200mm lens will just give you like this gooey, blurry background, which is of no use if you're trying to tell a story. You need the context. Now, as we stop down to 2.8, let's do a quick zoom in again. This is starting to get pretty darn sharp. The detail here, when it finally loads, these are big old files I've got going on. There we go. Look at that. This bit of leaf here is a bit that's in focus. It's great. Let's now flick along to 5.6. You can probably hear my computer struggling in the background, that whirring, hissing noise. It's not audio hiss, it's my laptop fan getting ready to take off. Boom, there we go. 5.6, we're incredibly sharp. And if we zoom out, the background's starting to get a bit busy, and this is more of a show you actually what's in the background rather than a bit of context. There we go to f10. At this point, the lens starts to lose its charm, I'd say. So let's wait for that to load. There we go. lots in focus, but the detail's starting to lack. I'd say past f8, you're losing this lens. It's not really designed to be used at f10, but should you need to, there it is. Now that's all well and good, but let's look at my portfolio and actually how the lens gets used. Now, I bought this before I was a food photographer, but I'm going to start at food because this is one of my most popular images and it is shot on the 35mm lens. This is also on the 35mm. 35mm. Pretty sure this is on the 35mm too. I use it to get the distortion going on in this sort of like breakfasty scene. And this guy here, which is actually getting deleted from my portfolio because I don't actually like the image anymore. This was also shot on my 35mm lens. It does the job for food. It's not particularly versatile. Doesn't always work. This one here is getting deleted too, but you can see how much it distorts when you get really close. And you need to get close to fill the frame. I'm not going to go into the distortion debate now. I'll do that another time. It works for food, but it shouldn't be the first lens you buy. Now, portraits. Let's see how much I've actually left in here, which is of use. Here we go. Environmental portraits. So this here, 35mm. This is when I was touring with bands, shooting bands. I think I actually shot this with Premier Drums, who was a client of mine, I think. This is shot on the 35 because that nice context, that nice, it lets you know where you are. And when you get really close in to get the distortion, you can feel the frame. Again, I think this is at 1.8. It's a great portrait lens. This was shot for Premier Drums on the 35 as well. You get a nice bit of story going on in there. This is at f10. There's loads of lights. You can't see them, but they're all hidden around the room. These two here, storytelling is in a food bank. 35mm lens. It separates the subject from the background, but it lets you see where the subject actually is placed and what the background is. Again, 35mm lens, f2, 2.8 perhaps. You can see where we are, you can see what's going on, but it just lifts the subject out. You can use it for a bit of drama as well. Again, back at f10, lit from both sides with sort of sandwich lighting system going on. Two big soft boxes outside. Gives you that nice bit of, oomph. It's really sharp and detailed, and it lends itself to this sort of work when you do stop it down. Again, coming over here, a bit of documentary work at a cattle market, 35, letting you tell the story. But it's still great. This is at f1.4, 1.6, somewhere around there. But you can still see where we are. What else do we have? A bit of work we did for clients showing the staff at this place here that make furniture for palaces and places. And I shot everything on the 35. So I had the continuity, same lighting setup for all these people. We just moved around. Really, really like these images. I wish I got booked to do more work like that. Now this is the 50mm Sigma lens. You can see how it's a bit tighter and how the background really throws out. Whereas on the 35, you just get a little bit more context as to what you're doing. Again, shot on the 35 in a gym. A bit more from that series of people working with the 35. Really well used lens in my repertoire. There we go. This is 35mm Alan Davis. It's my friend's granddad on a boat, and again with the 35mm, just getting that storytelling going on. Nice little bit of leading lines as well. So there we go. If you're into storytelling, into really capturing the scene, showing that environmental portrait work, you want something which can really let people see what's going on, this lens is perfect for it. It is probably one of my most used lenses since starting. Actually, it's definitely my most used lens since starting. The images it produces are beautiful. I can't fault it. The build quality is great. It's never needed a service or a repair. It's probably taken over 1 million frames. Absolutely brilliant lens. I cannot recommend it highly enough. If you're enjoying these videos, do hit subscribe. I think I've upped myself somehow to 4 videos a week with a question video at the weekend, a how-to, a gear review, and then the vlog as well. If you have any questions that you want me to answer in the questions videos, pop them in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you all next time.